Hi, today I want to talk to you about the character of Noah in the Bible. So, I'm actually beginning to suspect that Noah is actually a woman in the Bible. And there are a few reasons why I'm beginning to suspect that, and I'm going to share those reasons with you today. So, remember that God had covenants with Abraham, and Abraham's covenant was circumcision. And Noah's covenant was a rainbow. And I think the reason why he couldn't do a circumcision with Noah is because Noah is actually a woman. And the Bible sometimes, I believe, as I'm reading through the Bible sometimes changes the characters of the women to the men. Women's role is downplayed in the Bible. As I'm reading through the Bible, I'm beginning to sense that. So, one of the main reasons why I believe that Noah could be a woman in the Bible is because of the lineage. So, the lineage of Noah comes from Seth, which is the third son of Adam and Eve. And remember, the first son was Cain, the second son was Abel. Cain killed Abel, and Cain had to leave the area that Adam and Eve was in. That was they were raising the other children, and so Cain left, and he found his wife out there. We don't exactly know where out there is because there shouldn't be as many people out there as he would need to find a wife, but he did find a wife and he had children. But his lineage, they are the same names as the names of the third son, which is Seth. So um, I'm going to show you the names of Cain's lineage, because Cain went out there, and I'm going to show you the names of the Seth lineage, and they're the same names. As a matter of fact, Lamech is Noah's father, and Lamech has Lamech is also in the lineage of Cain, and he's also in the lineage of Seth. So the way the Bible reads is that Seth is the great 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 grandfather of Noah. But from my take of it, I think they couldn't allow Cain to be the great 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 grandfather of Noah is because Cain is a murderer. So it wouldn't read that well in the storyline for us, our entire generation, civilization basically, to come from this murderer. So they created another son, which is Seth, so they can say, okay, we are from the lineage of Seth. So I will show you the names side by side. All right, so in Genesis 4, chapter 17, it says here Cain knew his wife, one of Adam's descendants, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. So for Seth, Seth also had an Enoch. But instead of Enoch, it's Enosh. It's Enosh. Instead of for Cain, it's Enoch. And Cain built a city and named it Enoch after the name of his son. Now, Enoch was born Erad. So for Cain, he had an Erad, but for Seth, he had a Jared. And Ered became the father of Mehuhahel. And so for Cain, he had a Mehuhahel, but for Seth, he had a Mehulalel. And Mehuhahel was the father of Methuselah. Methuselah. So Methuselah, remember, is the father of Lamech, and Lamech is the father of Noah. Okay, so now to Enoch was born Ered, and Ered became the father of Mehuahel, and Mehuahel became the father of Methuselah, and Methuselah became the father of Lamech. And Lamech, this is where it gets interesting for Cain. So Lamech had two wives, and the name of one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. So now Ada gave birth to Jamal. So his two wives had four children in total. One wife gave him two children, two sons, and the other wife gave him one son, one daughter. And it's important for you to see the daughter's name. And that's why I'm saying I believe Noah actually is a girl. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He became the father of those nomad herdmen and live in tents and have cattle and raise livestock. His, his brother's name was Jubal. So it's Jabal and Jubal. He became the father of those musicians who played the lyre and flute. Zillah gave birth to Tubal Cain, the smith, craftsman, and teacher of every artisan in instruments of bronze and iron. And Tubal Cain, the sister of Tubal Cain, was Naamah, Naamah, close to Noah, right? So the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, he tells a story about how he killed a guy for injuring him and killed a little boy just for bruising him. So Lamech, which is Noah's father, is actually a pretty violent man. But what's interesting about Lamech is this 777 story that they tell. So it said, if he says, if Cain is avenged sevenfold um, for killing somebody, and he's killed two persons, then Lamech will be avenged 77-fold. So it's 77-fold. It's like 7-7. So so this is the last time you hear about Lamech here, is they're telling you the story of the 77-fold, right? That he's going to be avenged. But when you look at the children for Seth, the last you hear of Lamech is that he died 777 years. And the same, I believe it's the same Lamech. He is the father for Noah. But if you look here and see, they don't have a Noah for this Lamech. They only have a Naamah, and this Naamah is a girl. So let's now take a look at the children for Seth, right? So I'm going to have on the screen the names of the children for Cain, and now I'm going to show you the names of the children for Seth. So now is the book, the written record of the history of the generations of the descendants of Adam. When God created man, he made them in the likeness of God, not physical, but a spiritual personality and moral likeness. He created them male and female and blessed them and named them mankind at the time they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness according to his image and named him Seth. So this is very interesting that they're telling you here in Genesis chapter 5 that he had a son named Seth. He had two prior sons called Cain and Abel in chapter 4. But in chapter 5, they don't tell you about Cain and Abel. They're just telling you about Seth. It's almost as if they want to erase Cain and Abel. Because in that story, Cain killed Abel. And so they're trying to get rid of the Cain character, because these children now that they're going to show you that Seth they have the same names as the children that Cain had, but it just wouldn't read well for us civilization to come from this murderer, which is Cain. That's how I am interpreting them not telling us here the generations coming from Adam, that he had Cain and Abel, and then he had Seth. So it says, when Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his image, and named him Seth. After he became the father of Seth, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. So Adam lived 930 years in all, and he died. So now, when Seth was 105 years old, he became the father of Enosh. Remember, Cain had an Enoch. The only difference here is the C and the H, the C and the S. Seth lived 807 years after the birth of Enosh, and he had other sons and daughters. So Seth lived 912 years and he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Canaan. So he became the father of Canaan. Canaan lived 815 years after the birth of Canaan and had other sons and daughters. So Enosh lived 905 years and he died. When Canaan was 70 years old, he became the father of Mahalalel, right? So remember, the other guy, he had Mehujahel. Cain had Mehujahel, but Seth had Mahalalel. Canaan lived 840 years after the birth of Mahalalel and had other sons and daughters. So Canaan lived 910 years and he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he became the father of Jared. So for Seth, he had a Jared. For Cain, he had an Ered. Mahalalel lived 830 years and after the birth of Jared and other sons and daughters. So Mahalalel lived 895 years and he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he became the father of Enoch. So here's the Enoch character again. Jared lived 800 years after the birth of Enoch and had other sons and daughters. So Jared lived 962 years and he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. 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 So for the Cain story, it was Methusael. Methusael. So we have Methuselah here, but Methusael for Cain. Enoch walked in habitual fellowship with God 300 years after the birth of Methuselah and had other sons and daughters. So the days of Enoch were 365 years. And in reverent fear and obedience, Enoch walked with God, and he was not found among men because God took him away to be home with him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. So you have a Lamech for Seth here, and you also have a Lamech for Cain. Methuselah lived 782 years after the birth of Lamech and had other sons and daughters. So Methuselah lived 969 years and he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he became the father of a son. He named him Noah, saying, This one shall bring us rest and comfort from our work, from the dreadful toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord cursed. Lamech lived 595 years after the birth of Noah and had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech were 777 years and he died. Okay, so now you see that Lamech, he had a son called Noah, right? But for the other Lamech, for Cain, which he was the murderer of Abel, he also had a Lamech, but he had a daughter, Naamah. He doesn't have a son called Noah. And here they're telling you that he died 777 years. And the other story, they ended with how God is going to avenge him 770 years, 70. So it's similar stories. These children are almost identically the same, but it seems as if they're creating different characters to tell a different story. So in Genesis chapter 5, they're talking about the lineage of Adam, and they do not mention Cain and Abel, as if they're trying to erase Cain and Abel out of the story because Cain killed Abel. Cain has the similar names as Seth does. Even the father of Noah, which is Lamech, but in the Cain story, he doesn't have a son called Noah. He has a daughter called Naamah. Noah, Naamah, Noah, Naamah. And so Noah, he gets the covenant with Lord God as a rainbow, which is interesting because we see another covenant, and it's the Bible is very masculine. So if God is going to do a covenant similar to Abraham, which got a circumcision, which shows the chosen people, the Israelites, the covenant for Noah should have also been a circumcision. So, but you can't circumcise. Well, I guess you can. But the covenant for Noah here is a rainbow. It seems more appropriate if the person was actually a female, which for Cain's Lamech, he has three sons and a daughter, and the daughter is Naamah, which is close to Noah. And so Noah gets a rainbow, which seems more appropriate for Naamah if she was actually the chosen one for her to get the rainbow. And so I just want you to take a look at these names and tell me if you're coming away from the story with the same conclusion. Because I found the children for Cain to have such similar name, and the fact that they talk about the Lamech character. Lamech is the father of Noah for Seth, but for Cain, he doesn't have a son called Noah. He has a daughter called Naamah. The fact that Noah was given a rainbow as a covenant, which for Abraham, he got a circumcision because he had a penis. So he was able to have a circumcision. And so Lamech, he tells the story that he has killed a man just for injuring him, and he has killed a little boy just for bruising him, and God is going to avenge him 70 times 7. And that's the last we hear of him for Cain. The last we hear of Lamech, the father of Noah, for the Seth son, is the fact that he died when he was 777, and he is the father of Noah. Another thing that's very interesting is that in Egyptian mythology, they also have a god. I think they have like 12 gods or something. They have a god called Seth that also killed his brother Osiris. So it's the Seth in that story, in that mythology, the Seth character is the killer of the brother Osiris. But for us, we in the Bible, we don't see Seth as the killer. We see Cain as the killer. Seth, it seems, replaces Cain, but based on the fact that they have similar named children and they also have the Lamech descendant, and Noah being from Lamech for Seth, and Naamah being from Lamech for Cain, it's extremely, extremely interesting how this story is being told. So let me know what you think about it. When you read Genesis chapter 4, which shows you the descendants for Cain, with similar names as Genesis chapter 5, which shows you the descendants for Seth with very similar names, and how Lamech is the father for Naamah under the Cain story, and Noah is the descendant from Lamech under the Seth story. Noah gets a rainbow. Naamah, which it seems like she's the girl more appropriate for her to get a rainbow. Tell me what you think about this story. I'm very curious to know.